And it's time to do business here on Joy News Prime with me, Beverly Broom. We go straight to our very first story, and government is working to finalize modalities with bilateral creditors on restructuring of the country's external debts. This was captured in an update released by the IMF on Ghana's program with the fund. George Riafe has the rest of the story.
IMF in the document indicated that this is the next line of action for government when it comes to reaching a deal with the bilateral creditors on restructuring of the country's external debts. This should mean that Ghana should agree with the creditors under the G20 framework on how the debt restructuring should be carried out in line with the IMF program. This is one of the critical benchmarks that should be completed in the coming weeks to ensure that Ghana is able to get the next tranche of funds under the IMF program. The Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta at the recent program indicated that Ghana is soon to sign a memorandum of understanding with these external creditors on restructuring of the country's debts. The IMF in the country report has also revealed that Ghana is engaging the private creditors to also seek relief on possible restructuring of the country's debts.
Still on the IMF, and Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, has welcomed proposals by the IMF calling for acquisitions and mergers of banks and non-banks, among other policies, to help mitigate the possible systematic financial instability in Ghana. According to him, it's obvious the sector has greatly been impacted by the domestic debt exchange program. Therefore, it is important to save the sector from collapsing than to wait until things get out of control. Joe Jackson spoke to Joy Business.
The proposal is a good idea. Our financial sector is in trouble, and the trouble spans many years, and the domestic debt exchange program was the latest in a series of blows that the financial sector has received. And so the idea of mergers, acquisitions makes absolute sense. We don't want to go through the financial sector cleaning that we did that cost the public purse. We want to make the strong stronger by tagging along the weak, if I may say so. And so I welcome this news, and I hope we'll see the fine details of this in the very near future. If the government had money, that would be okay. But the government is broke. It's so broke that it needed the domestic debt exchange program in order to pay its bills. How can we, with the same voice as the same government, to help recapitalize the banks? It's not realistic. If they have to recapitalize, all you're going to have to do is to go and borrow again. So if there's another solution where the regulator and other authorities move the institutions along so that we get stronger institutions, I support it.
Moving on, policy analyst Dr. Steve Manteo has taken a swipe at the precious minerals marketing company and the government for what he describes as lack of transparency in their procurement processes within the extractive sector of the economy. According to Dr. Manteo, the sector has been bedeviled with corrupt practices which needs to be addressed to save it from collapsing. Speaking to Joy Business at the launch of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative on the oil and gas sector, he charged Parliament to take a keen interest in pushing for a comprehensive report for the gold for oil deal.
The report recommended that any intended benefit from exempting dividends of the special purpose vehicle from taxes ought to be juxtaposed against the cost. According to Dr. Manteo, there should be a stated reason upon which the stability agreement can be revisited at the instance of any of the parties and include a sunset clause.
There is no disclosure in terms of who is financing the domestic gold purchases. 2, in this transaction, we are going to deploy the services of, or resort to the services of third parties for instance, who is buying Ghana's gold? I mean, who is selling Ghana's gold on the international market? If it's a broker, then the broker services has to be disclosed and the terms. How much is the broker being paid, okay, for his services? And how does it affect what we receive as a country in terms of returns? Now, you go onto the international market, you use the proceeds from your gold sales to buy petroleum products. How are you procuring your petroleum products? Is it at a spot price? Is it at a hedge price? What is the terms under which you are procuring your petroleum products? There is no disclosure. So you find that at 3 critical points. First, the gold purchases by PMMC, there is no transparency. In terms of the gold sales, who is buying or helping Ghana to sell its gold, there is no transparency, no disclosures. And how is Ghana procuring its petroleum products? Again, we don't know. And at what cost? At what cost are those facilitating these transactions?
Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Amin Adam, reiterated the ministry's commitment to collaborating with extractive sector players to address some of the critical challenges.
There is need for us to do more in order to meet our fiscal objectives. And so, under the program, we are expected to increase revenue from 15.7% of GDP as of the end of 2022 to 18.7% of GDP by the end of 2026. Similarly, we are to reduce expenditure in shares of GDP from 19.3% by the end of 2022 to 17.2% by the end of 2026. The two together, revenue expansion and contraction in expenditure, will give us a fiscal adjustment of about 5.1 percentage points. That's a huge adjustment. But we have to do what we can to be able to achieve that.
In its final recommendation, the govt report stated that all dividends due government from mining operations are paid appropriately to Mineral Income Investment Fund as required by the MIIF Act. James Echen's report for Joy Business.
Still on the energy sector, as energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleimana has welcomed plans to revive the Tema Oil Refinery, saying it is crucial to economic development, bearing in mind current challenges the country is faced with. The Attorney General is reviewing a draft operations and maintenance contract between the Tema Oil Refinery and a private investor to commence the process of revamping the refinery. Dr. Suleimana urged government to make reviving of the refinery a major priority.
That is so refreshing to hear. Just that I just hope this is not one of the sensational news that we do have, because we've had quite a lot of interesting news with respect to the refinery. But it will start with a bit of vigor and high momentum, then it will just fizzle out. And so I'm just cautioning that and urging that this shouldn't be one of the news that will vaporize into thin air, within a twinkle of an eye. But that said, it's an excellent news. It's an excellent starting point. We just stand by and watch how things will pan out. It's indeed, Tor needs a lot of investment. We have delayed, but never better late than never. Refinery is an important entity in every economic setup, especially in our jurisdiction where we have. We depend about almost 100% importation, and you clearly know how that impacts our local currency. So having a refinery is a need-based, policy intervention, that will cascade overall into your entire economy. And I can tell you, Darrell, on authority, that at this moment in time, Tor struggle to even take service guys to train. Nobody can do internship. Internship is struggling. Internship students are not getting opportunity. service students are not getting opportunity. And even those who get opportunity, the machines are just as idle as the human beings, which is so unfortunate. And Tor, the guys in Tor are very industrious. They just need to be given the chance to let the refinery run. So yes, that news is an excellent news. And I just hope that the president, take the bull by the horn and get this refinery back to business. And I think it will inure to the benefit of the entire economy.
Moving on, in a bid to advance trade and investments between the Caribbean and West Africa, the Caribbean Export Development Agency has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ghanaian business community. Trade volumes from the Caribbean to Africa in 2022 reached $1 billion, a figure the Caribbean Export Development Agency says is inadequate. Speaking to Joy Business after signing the MOU, Executive Director of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Deodat Maharaj, said the agreement provides enormous opportunity for Ghana to enhance its trade ties with Caribbean countries.
Trade volumes from the Caribbean to Africa in 2022 reached $1 billion, a figure the Caribbean Export Development Agency says is inadequate. In a bid to improve the volume, the Caribbean Export Development Agency has signed a memoranda with Ghanaian businesses to harness and leverage on the economic resources of Ghana and the Caribbean countries to boost economic trade ties. Executive Director of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Deodat Maharaj, tells Joy Business the agreement presents enormous opportunities for trade expansion across products and markets.
The Caribbean is one of the most food insecure regions on the planet. We have a market of 30 million people. In 2019, before COVID, we had 30 million tourist arrivals who stayed overnight, so stayover arrivals. So you're looking at a market of over 60 million. A direct flight would be 7 hours. We are right across the Atlantic. So your agricultural producers for high-end products, you'll find a ready market in the Caribbean. Similarly, we have made an entry here with Caribbean rum, with Barbadian rum. We have fantastic products that Ghanaians would love to have as well.
Speaking at the forum, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry Stephen Amwa said Ghana is ready to partner and collaborate with Caribbean countries to explore business opportunities for their mutual benefits.
Ghana is endowed with a wide range of skill component of our labor force. We have a lot of raw materials. We have natural resources. Our land is basically forest, semi-forest, savanna, semi-savanna, coastal belt. We have almost everything. We have mango, pawpaw, everything. We have lithium. We have everything. We have salt, and then we are highly learned. And I think the same can be said of our brothers, the Caribbeans. What is left is to realize this dream of making sure that we can merge what we have and derive the needed synergies.
On her part, Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Business Development in Barbados, Sandra Husbands, expressed the need for Ghana and the Caribbean countries work hand in hand to boost trade volumes in Africa.
We want our people to know each other. We're family, and we need to know where we've come from. We need to know and understand our roots. And it is that deep commitment to reconnecting on all three of those levels that Barbados has been working assiduously to take our discussions into active work.
Meanwhile, some Ghanaian business leaders who signed the agreement spoke to Joy Business.
It is only through trade that we can harness our potentials and grow together. Every country that have to grow will have to trade. And so anybody that is being blocked from trade, any country that has sanctioned not to trade among others has a difficulty, because then the country will not grow.
And that's how we end business tonight. For more business news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Beverly Broom. Have a good evening.